The wind screamed against the windows of our small Tampa apartment like it was trying to tear the building apart. The power had gone out 10 minutes ago, leaving Catalina and me in complete darkness except for the occasional flash of lightning. "Sofia," she whispered, her voice trembling in a way I'd never heard before. "I've been in love with you since the day you brought your girlfriend home to this very apartment, and I can't keep it hidden anymore." My heart slammed against my ribs so hard I thought it might crack. Rain hammered the roof like gunfire, and the whole building groaned under the force of the hurricane. I fumbled for my phone, turning on the flashlight, but the beam only made Catalina's face sharper. Her dark eyes locked on mine, full of something raw and terrifying. We'd been roommates for 2 years, easy friends who split rent and takeout, nothing more. Or at least that's what I told myself every single day. "What are you talking about?" My voice came out hoarse, barely louder than the storm. She stepped closer, her hand brushing my arm, and I jerked back like she'd burned me. The flashlight shook in my grip, casting wild shadows across the living room we'd decorated together. Cheap IKEA couch, the framed photo of us at last year's Pride Parade that I'd always passed off as just friends supporting friends. Catalina didn't flinch. "You heard me, Sofia. That afternoon you walked in with her." Emma laughing, holding her hand right here in this room like it was the most natural thing in the world. I smiled and made coffee like nothing was wrong. But inside I was dying. Because I'd loved you since college, since the night I told you how I felt and you looked at me like I was poison. The words hit like another gust of wind rattling the glass. College. God, I hadn't let myself think about that night in years. I was 20, home from the University of Florida for winter break, terrified of my parents' endless questions about boys, about settling down, about being the good Vietnamese American daughter they'd raised with church every Sunday and lectures about tradition. Catalina had been my closest friend back then, the one who understood late-night study sessions and bad dorm food. She'd pulled me aside at that holiday party, her breath warm against my ear, and said the words I'd been running from my whole life. "I'm in love with you, Sofia. I have been for months." I'd laughed it off. No, I'd shoved her away, literally, my palms flat against her shoulders. "You're confused," I'd snapped, loud enough for my cousin in the next room to hear. "I'm not like that. Don't ever say that again." My parents had been in the kitchen, laughing with aunts and uncles, and the fear of them finding out had clawed up my throat until I couldn't breathe. I spent the rest of break avoiding her texts, then transferred to a different state the next semester. I told myself it was for my future, for peace, for the life they wanted for me. I told myself a lot of lies back then. Lightning flashed again, illuminating Catalina's face. Older now, stronger, but the hurt in her eyes was the same as that night. "You brought Emma here to prove something," she continued, voice steady even as the storm roared. "To prove you could love a woman and still keep it safe, still keep it hidden from your family. But I saw the way you looked at her, Sofia. And I saw the way you pulled away the second your mom called. You're still running." I wanted to argue, to tell her she was wrong, that Emma had been real, that I'd tried. But the words stuck. Because she was right. I'd met Emma at a quiet coffee shop 6 months ago. Let myself feel something real for the first time since college. When I brought her home that Saturday afternoon, it was supposed to be casual. "My roommate Catalina, this is Emma, we're seeing each other." But the second my phone rang and Mom's name flashed, I dropped Emma's hand like it was on fire. I'd introduced her as my friend from work instead. Emma left that night with tears in her eyes and never came back. I told myself it was better that way. The wind howled louder and something outside cracked. Maybe a branch, maybe a sign. The apartment shook. Catalina reached for me again, slower this time. "We're stuck here until this passes, Sofia. No power, no escape. You don't have to run anymore." I backed up until my legs hit the couch, sinking down hard. My mind raced through every lie I'd built. Every family dinner where I smiled and changed the subject when they asked about marriage. Every time I'd scrolled past Pride posts and told myself I was fine. The guilt I'd buried since college came flooding back, thick and choking. I'd hurt Catalina that night, and I'd hurt myself every day after. And now, trapped by a hurricane with nowhere to hide, the truth was finally here, demanding to be seen. I opened my mouth, but the words wouldn't come. Not yet. The storm outside was nothing compared to the one ripping through me. Catalina sat across from me on the coffee table, her knees inches from mine, flashlight beam steady between us like a barrier I couldn't cross. The rain had turned into a constant roar, and every few minutes the building creaked like it might give up. I stared at my hands, remembering the way they'd pushed her away all those years ago in my parents' backyard, the Christmas lights twinkling like they were mocking me. "You never answered my texts after that night," she said quietly. "I waited 2 weeks. Then I saw on Instagram you'd transferred to California. I told myself it was fine, that you were scared. But it broke something in me, Sofia. I dated other people, tried to forget. Then 2 years ago I saw your post about moving back to Florida, needing a roommate. I thought maybe enough time had passed. Maybe we could be friends again." I swallowed hard. I didn't know you still felt that way. I thought I'd ruined everything. "You did," she answered, no anger, just truth. "But I still showed up with my boxes because I missed you. And then you brought Emma home, and it all came rushing back. Watching you two laugh in the kitchen. The way your eyes lit up when she touched your arm, it killed me. Because I knew you were doing the same thing you did to me. Pushing it down. Pretending." Another flash of lightning lit the room, and for a second I saw the college version of us. Me in my oversized hoodie, her with that hopeful smile I'd crushed. My parents had always made it clear. Good girls married good boys, had grandkids, carried on the family name. My older brother had already disappointed them by moving to New York for art school. I couldn't be the second failure. So I buried it so deep I almost believed the lie myself. I was terrified. I admitted, voice cracking. "Mom found a note once when I was 16, some stupid crush letter from a girl at summer camp. She cried for days, Sofia, actual days. Told me God would forgive me if I prayed harder. Dad stopped talking to me for a month. I learned to smile and date boys in high school, even kissed a few at parties just to prove I could. When you told me how you felt, it was like my worst fear walking up and saying my name. I couldn't let it be real." Catalina nodded slowly, her hand resting on her knee like she wanted to reach for me but knew better. "I get that. But you're 28 now. Your parents live 3 states away. You're not the scared kid anymore. And neither am I." The wind shifted, and a low siren wailed somewhere outside, probably a tornado warning. My phone buzzed on the floor with an emergency alert. Hurricane Milton upgraded to Category 4. Stay indoors. Power outages expected for days. Days. We were really stuck. I stood up, pacing to the window even though I couldn't see anything through the boarded slats. "What do you want from me, Catalina? To say I feel the same? To pretend the last 8 years didn't happen?" "I want you to stop lying to yourself," she said, standing too. "That's all. Because every time you flinch when I get too close, every time you change the subject when I ask about dating, I see the same girl who pushed me away. And it hurts, Sofia. It still hurts." Her words landed heavy, mixing with the thunder. I thought about Emma again. The gentle way she'd kissed me goodnight the week before I brought her here, how I'd canceled our next date with some excuse about work. I'd told myself I was protecting her from my family's judgment. But really I was protecting myself. The guilt twisted tighter. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "For college. For Emma. For everything." Catalina stepped closer. Close enough that I could smell her shampoo over the damp air. "Sorry isn't enough anymore. Not when we're trapped here and the world outside is falling apart. Tell me the truth, Sofia. Just once." I wanted to. The words were right there. Yes, I felt something too, something I'd buried so deep I'd almost forgotten it existed. But the fear was still there, whispering my mother's voice, my father's silence. The storm outside howled louder, and inside me the same storm raged. The argument built like the hurricane itself, slow at first then raging. I told her about the family dinners after college, how Mom would set me up with sons of church friends, and I'd smile through it all. How I'd moved to Tampa thinking distance would help, but every phone call still carried the weight of expectation. Catalina listened, really listened, then hit back with her own pain. The nights she'd cried after I left college, the therapy she'd started just to stop hating herself for loving someone who couldn't love her back. "You think you're the only one who suffered?" she asked, voice rising over the wind. "I watched you bring Emma into our home, and then deny her the second your mom called. I saw the look on her face when she left. You did to her what you did to me, Sofia. And you're still doing it to yourself. I slammed my hand on the counter, the sound lost in the storm. You don't get to judge me. You have no idea what it's like to grow up hearing that who you are is wrong every single Sunday. I do, she shot back. My family isn't exactly waving rainbow flags either. But I chose to stop hiding. You chose to keep running. The power flickered back on for 30 seconds. Just long enough for the TV to blare an emergency broadcast before dying again. In that flash I saw Catalina's face clearly. Exhaustion mixed with something fierce. We were both breathing hard, the air thick with years of unsaid things. I sank back onto the couch, head in my hands. Flashback hit me hard. The day I brought Emma home. I'd been so proud for a moment, introducing her as my girlfriend to the one person I trusted. Then Mom's call. Sofia, your cousin is getting married. When are you bringing someone home? I'd panicked, changed the word girlfriend to friend mid-sentence. Emma had heard. She'd smiled politely, finished her coffee, and left. That night I'd stared at the ceiling until dawn, hating myself but still too scared to fix it. I thought if I could just keep it quiet, everyone would be happy. I said now, voice small. My parents, Emma, you. Me. Catalina knelt in front of me, not touching, just there. No one's happy, Sofia. Not really. The storm eased for a minute, wind dropping to a moan. In the quiet I heard my own heartbeat, loud and guilty. For the first time in years the walls I'd built felt thin, ready to crack. But cracking meant facing everything. The judgment waiting outside this apartment. The friends who thought I was straight. The family who would never understand. I don't know how to stop running, I admitted. Then let me show you, Catalina whispered. Starting right now. Morning light finally crept through the cracks in the boards, weak and gray. The hurricane had moved on, leaving flooded streets and down power lines. We ventured outside for the first time in 36 hours, boots splashing through water, neighbors calling out to each other in shocked voices. Someone recognized us, my coworker Mia from the coffee shop across the street. Sofia. Catalina. You two okay? We heard the building took some damage. We nodded, but the way Mia looked between us felt different. Later that afternoon, when power came back in patches, my phone exploded with messages. Mom had seen a news clip of our neighborhood. Are you safe? Who's that girl you're with in the video? Someone had filmed us standing close on the balcony. Catalina's hand on my shoulder for balance. It looked intimate. It was intimate. The texts from friends started next. Wait, are you and Catalina? My college roommate from years ago messaged. I always wondered after that party. The community I'd carefully built, the straight-presenting version of me, was cracking open. At the corner store that evening, the cashier, an old lady who knew my mom from church events, gave me a long look. Your mother called me, dear. Said you've been keeping secrets. Guilt crashed over me again. I'd spent years curating the perfect image, successful marketing job, polite smiles, no drama. Now it was all unraveling because of one confession in the dark. Catalina stayed quiet beside me, but I could feel her watching, waiting to see if I'd run again. That night, back in the still damp apartment, I finally called my parents. The conversation was short and brutal. Mom cried. Dad went silent. We raised you better, Mom said before hanging up. I sat on the floor afterward, phone in my lap, tears coming hot and fast. Catalina sat beside me without saying anything, just there. The next days brought more confrontations. Friends wanted explanations. Why didn't you trust us? One asked. Another unfollowed me on social media with a vague post about honesty. Every comment stung like the hurricane debris still littering the streets. I'd denied my truth to protect them. But all I'd done was hurt everyone, including myself. Catalina never pushed. She made coffee in the mornings, sat with me through the silence. Slowly, the weight of years started to lift, but the pain of facing it was worse than any storm. Weeks passed, and the city slowly dried out. I started therapy, something I'd sworn I'd never need. The counselor listened while I unpacked the college rejection, the Emma betrayal, the family silence that followed the hurricane call. You're not broken for loving women, she said gently. But you broke parts of yourself trying not to. Catalina and I navigated the new space between us carefully. Some nights we talked until sunrise, filling in the missing years. Other nights we sat in silence, the tension still electric. I caught myself watching her, really watching, the way she laughed at bad TV, how she always saved the last slice of pizza for me. The feelings I'd buried were surfacing, terrifying and real. One evening my brother flew in from New York, the only family member who didn't turn away. "I always knew," he said over takeout. "Mom and Dad will come around eventually. Or they won't. But you can't live for them anymore." His words gave me courage I didn't know I had. I found Emma on social media and sent a long apology. She replied days later. "Thank you. I hope you're happy now." The guilt eased a fraction. Catalina watched me hit send, pride in her eyes. But the community judgment didn't stop. A cousin posted passive-aggressive family photos excluding me. Old high school friends messaged asking if it was just a phase. Each one forced me to choose. Hide again or stand up. I chose to stand, shaky but standing. Catalina and I took our first real walk together after the storm cleanup, hand in hand down a cleared sidewalk. It felt like the beginning of something I'd waited my whole life to feel. The awakening was slow and painful, but it was mine. Months later the city had healed, and so had pieces of me. Catalina and I moved to a new apartment, same building, different unit, like a fresh start. My parents still didn't call much, but my brother visited often, bringing hope with him. I'd started volunteering at the local LGBTQ center, helping scared kids who reminded me of my college self. The work filled the holes guilt had left. Catalina and I were careful, patient. Our first real date was simple. Coffee at the same shop where I'd met Emma, but this time I held her hand openly. No flinching. No lies. The happiness in that sunny park moment I'd once only dreamed about was finally real. Even if it had taken a hurricane to get here. I still carried the scars. The family dinners I wasn't invited to. The friends who drifted away. But the redemption wasn't perfect or easy. It was messy and ongoing. Every time I chose truth over fear, the wounds healed a little more. Looking at Catalina asleep beside me now, breathing steady, I knew the journey had been worth every painful step. The past no longer controlled me. True or false? Can someone who spent years denying their true self, due to family pressure, ever truly make amends for the pain they caused and find happiness?